Alright, so today's video is about knives. Now this is a Larry Roberts Genesis from LT Wright. It is still my favorite knife, but we're going to be using the rule of threes to see if a knife truly is a survival item. If your life is on the line, if you are in a life or death situation, is a knife going to save you? I will leave a link to my introduction video so that you can get a better idea of what we're doing in this series. But for right now, let's just jump right into the rule of threes. All right, so first off is 3 minutes without air. Now, when I first thought about this, I thought a knife doesn't really help, but then I remembered when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I was staying at a friend of mine's grandparents' hunting land. We were camping out there, and so one of my buddies brought his girlfriend. The girlfriend went into the tent to change, and she couldn't get back out because the zipper was stuck. And so we were trying to get her out, and she's panicking because she's stuck inside this small tent, you know. And I had the brilliant idea of cutting the fabric because the rain flap that covers the zipper was caught in it. And so my young, unknowledgeable brain thought if I cut the fabric out, the fabric would just move with the zipper, which of course was not the case. But so I cut the fabric around it and it didn't work. And when she found out that it did not work, she went from panicking to hyperventilating, panicking like she thought she was going to be stuck in this tent forever. And she started talking about how she can't breathe. I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And so my buddy grabbed his knife and just cut the door open. She snuck out. They left. He had to take her home. And it was a big deal. But looking back on it, we were talking to her through the mesh, right? She had opened the window on the door of the tent. And so she was getting plenty of air. You know what I mean? Like she was fine. She was just in a panic state. But it got me thinking about how if she was in an enclosed tent or an enclosed tarp or there was something enclosed, she might be having a hard time, especially with hyperventilating and panicking. She might have been in a situation where she honestly couldn't breathe. And so a knife would have saved her if she was truly in a situation where she could not breathe. That knife would have gotten her fresh air. It would have gotten out of there. And so it can help. It can help cut you out of things. If you can think of any other survival situation where a knife would help, where it comes to breathing, 3 minutes without air, leave it in the comment section. That's literally the only thing I can think of. And honestly, it wasn't even a survival situation. She was just panicking because she was stuck inside this tent. And yeah, it's just it could have potentially been a survival situation if all of the terms were different and everything was changed. It could have been. So that's the only thing I have for 3 minutes without air. All right, so the next one is 3 hours exposed to the elements, 3 hours without shelter. And when it comes to a knife can help you build a shelter. It can help you cut down saplings. It can help you start a fire. You can baton wood to make it easier. You can cut cordage. So you can feather stick, again, to help aid in fire making. And so when it comes to protecting against the elements, a knife can't really help you by itself unless, of course, you're building like a wind block, right? If you're using saplings or you're using small branches to create a wind block, or maybe if you're doing a hand drill set, which I cannot do. I've never been able to get a hand drill to work. But if you're strictly using just a knife, it's hard to use just a knife for staying warm, cool, dry, you know, all the elements. But it does, if you have more than just the knife, it does aid in a lot of different things. Like I said, if you have a lighter and a knife, it's way easier to start fire with those two things together than it is with just the lighter by itself. If you're building shelter and you have cordage and you have a tarp and you have different things, a knife cutting the cordage, building a little shelter that you can put the tarp on, making tent pegs out of sticks, a knife really aids and everything else. And so everything else that you have for shelter, your knife is going to make it that much easier, and it's going to make it that much better on top of that. You're going to have a fire that's going to be a lot easier to start. You're going to have a shelter that's a lot more robust and stronger. You're going to have something that's more watertight because you can cut the tarp to where it needs to fit, and you can do a lot more. You can you can put a fire inside of your shelter because you cut a hole in the top of the tarp so that the smoke can escape. There's just the knife itself doesn't help with 3 hours exposed to the elements, but it does help all the other stuff that you're carrying. It's a very important tool that can make other tools. It can do so much for you when it comes to staying out of the elements. And so even though by itself it can't really do a lot, combined with all the other things you're carrying, it can do a ton. So in the comment section down below, again, if you can think of a survival situation, life or death, where your knife and your knife alone is going to protect you and keep you alive, let me know in that comment section. The only thing that I can really think of is if somebody's attacking you and you're using it to defend yourself. But other than that, I can't really think of a situation or an environment that I'm in other than a dark alley at night where a knife can really save your life. All right, so next is 3 days without water. And this is again going to be, the knife itself isn't going to get you water. It has to be paired with other things. It can cut open a can of beans, and then after you're done eating the beans, you can put water in that can and then boil water. You can make fire again to help boil water. You can cut the top off containers so that a water filter will fit inside of them. But again, you need the container, you need the filter, you need the can of beans to begin with. You need, it doesn't do it by itself. It just aids in giving you water. It aids in making the fire. It aids in making the containers better. It aids in making sure that you can open cans and different things. And so it's not really a tool that stands out by itself, right? It's not like I'm going to use my knife and my knife is going to solve all my problems. Your knife is only as good as the other things that you're carrying. And so again, in the comment section, if you can think of a way that you can get water with just a knife, let me know and let everyone else know so that we can learn together. All right, next is 3 weeks without food. How can a knife help you get food? Lots of ways. This is where it really shines. It can help you make a spear for hunting. It can help you make a frog gig for catching fish and different things down by the lake. It can help make traps like a figure 4 deadfall, again for catching food. It can help you skin game, so once you've caught something, you can skin it and make it so that it's actually edible. You can use it for processing fruits and vegetables or collecting fruits or vegetables. You can take a knife and tie it to a stick and use that as a spear. You don't even have to sharpen the stick. You can just use the knife as the tip of the spear. You can use it tied to a stick to reach up and cut fruits off a high tree. There's so many things that you can use a knife for collecting and processing food. Even when you have people that are not in the prepper mindset or the survival mindset, you talk about knives and they go straight to kitchen knives, right? Everybody has a full set of kitchen knives with different knives for different purposes: a fillet knife, a paring knife, a chef's knife, a bread knife, right? When it comes to food, knives are king. There's just so many things you can do with a good knife. And so that is honestly, in my opinion, the best thing a knife has to offer is its ability to process and get food. When it comes to a survival situation, I don't know a better way of getting food than with a knife. All right, and last but not least is the 3 things everyone needs to survive, which is food, water, and shelter. And we've already talked about food and its ability to make tools to gather food, its ability to process food, its ability to skin things and make them more edible and palatable. When it comes to water, it's not really, again, by itself, it's not that great of a tool, but it aids in all the other things that you're bringing with you, and it makes everything a lot easier, simpler. And so Again, it's important enough to have it because it makes everything else so much easier. But again, it's not going to do it by itself. You have to have different things with you as well as just the knife. And shelter, it can create a very good shelter by itself, but it's going to aid again in cutting cordage, cutting tarps, making sure that you're cutting saplings and leaves and different things to make sure that you are waterproofing your roof if you make a shelter. Again, it's just going to aid in making it a lot better and a lot simpler. And so, in my opinion, a knife is a very important survival tool. Even though it's not the best by itself, its ability to make everything else easier makes it important, because when you're in a situation that you don't want to be in and your mind's not working correctly because you're panicked or you're rushing because you're in a hurry or there's just all these factors coming in at you, having a knife that makes things easier, having a knife that makes things faster is very important in any situation. Any situation where you can make your life as easy as possible, those are items that I want to carry with me, and a knife does that in spades. So, with that being said, in the comment section down below, I want to know a survival situation where a knife is worse. My personal one that I go to is a big knife if you are drowning. Drowning is a survival situation where if you have a big knife on your hip, it's actually worse than if you don't have a knife at all. So, in the comment section, if you can think of more scenarios where a knife is not a good survival tool, let me know in that comment section, which I probably said comment section 10 times, but I really want to hear what you have to say, and I can't wait to see you on my next video.